Back in the 1990s, Toho was deep in their second continuity of Godzilla films, with what fans have collectively called the Heisei series. This timeline of movies ended with Godzilla vs. Destoroyah, but they've recently brought back in some elements of those films with their gemstone shorts that have been coming out over the last few years. And while the certainty of those being canon to those is still up in the air, they most definitely are playing with references and callbacks to the Destoroyah ending. But before Godzilla vs. Destoroyah was even a thing, the idea for the last movie of the Heisei series was for Godzilla to actually fight another Godzilla. The plan was for the newer 90s variant to fight the resurrected spirit of the monster that was killed by the Oxygen Destroyer way back in 1954. So the idea for the final antagonist of the Heisei series to be the original Godzilla is actually a great one. Toho would eventually reuse this concept for GMK a few years later in 2001, but at the time, a movie where Godzilla actually fights another member of his own species was a pretty novel one. The idea was for the ghost of the original Godzilla to actually possess the little Godzilla that we've been watching grow up in the series. After possessing Junior, it causes the smaller Godzilla to grow, and he kind of starts to resemble the monster from the 1954 original, which is super creepy. He was even supposed to have a bunch of cracks, tears, and stretch mark type things in his skin that remind me of what it looks like to put on a bunch of weight. Now, this whole concept of Godzilla fighting a ghost Godzilla even got a mock-up drawn of it from Shinji Nishikawa, which was kind of uber cool because it looks like you would have only seen his dorsal spikes light up when he's just a spirit or something. They do have like a full blue version, and they even made a little Funko Pop of this idea years later for people that collect that sort of thing. Now, personally, this script idea has always fascinated me. I actually really like the idea of seeing a movie where Godzilla fights another Godzilla, which is probably why, even though I know some people don't care much for Space Godzilla, I actually thought that was a pretty cool little movie. And the later Millennium idea of Godzilla against Mechagodzilla, I found that to be super cool too. I think just the idea of the spirit of the 1954 monster returning is super cool, and it's always cool to see him fight another Godzilla. But back in the 90s, this Heisei concept was something that would have evolved and changed over time. I did a video years ago on how Anguirus was going to look in another draft of this script, which yes, he was planned for the Heisei movies. But in that draft, the ghost was going to possess him and become Godzirus. What an original name. Another version of this unmade movie would have been called Godzilla vs. Baragirus, and then there was yet another draft called Godzilla vs. Chaos. That movie would have had the Chaos Monster fight Godzilla for control over Ghost Godzilla's energy. So yeah, Ghost Godzilla was a big idea that's been around for a while. But after fighting both Space Godzilla and Mechagodzilla, I guess the company felt doing another similar idea like that looked like a Godzilla was just a bridge too far in the familiarity department. Still, I gotta say, I love the idea. I like the movie Destoroyah too, don't get it twisted, but Ghost Godzilla, just think about that Ghost Godzilla. It's just a super cool concept. As far as the monster goes itself, Ghost Godzilla was going to have the ability to, quote, corrupt the minds of his vessels. Apparently he has a lot of powers like levitation and teleportation, but also he's able to spit at his enemies like a Dilophosaurus or something, and the spit was supposed to be, of all things, ectoplasm.
He slimed me.
Now, there was one cool idea that had him act kind of more like a vampire, where daylight was supposed to be a weakness to him. And I think he was also only able to travel around the areas that he was seen showing up at while he was still alive in the 1954 movies. So it's almost like he's haunting those areas of Japan or something. This is really cool stuff. Ghost Godzilla was even exorcised from Junior at one point, where his will was stronger than that of the monsters that possessed him. So there's some fun ideas here that seem to be a little silly on the actual plot structure sense of the Heisei films, but they fit right at home with modern spooky stories. All in all, I like the idea of Ghost Godzilla. This is a monster that I think would be very cool for Toho to bring back, but the only problem is they've kind of already done that with both GMK and Godzilla against Mechagodzilla, let alone the sequel, Tokyo SOS, so I think they probably won't resurrect this idea for a while. pun intended. Anyways, guys, those are all just my own thoughts on Ghost Godzilla, the monster that was going to be busted by the Heisei version in the last film of the second Toho timeline. The concept of this monster was commissioned on December 27th of 1994, so just a few days before the new year, and only about a year before Destoroyah came out. Boy, the turnaround on those was really quick, wasn't it? Anyways, guys, those are all just my own thoughts. Who knows what kind of new empire this whole Ghost Godzilla could have ushered in, but yeah, he's got a cool look. He's got something really fun and Heisei about him. It's a shame that it never happened. So whatever your own thoughts and opinions are on this concept happen to be, I'd love to hear all about them in the comments down below. Let me tell you something, brother. Thanks for taking the time to watch this video. I really appreciate it, and if you'd like to see more, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell notification so you can be updated when I put out new videos. God bless you all. Christ is King. I hope you all enjoyed your time, and as always, take it easy.